All right. We're talking about motivation. So imagine prisoners chained since childhood deep inside a cave. So first of all, when you think of a cave, what do you think of?
Darkness.
Think of darkness. What else?
Cold.
Cold. Right?
Dirt.
Dirt. Who lives in caves? Animals. Cavemen. Right? Is this a place for small children? No. Right? So already we're starting off, imagine prisoners chained since childhood deep inside a cave. Were these prisoners born in the cave? No. They were born someplace else, but they were chained inside this cave. All right? Not only are their limbs immobilized by their chains, but their heads are as well, so their eyes are fixed on a wall. What does immobilized mean?
Can't move. Not able.
Not able to move. You can't move. All right? So not only are they immobilized by these chains, but their heads are as well, and their eyes are fixed on the wall. Behind the prisoners is an enormous fire, and between the fire and the prisoners is a raised way, along which men carry shapes of various plants, animals, and other things. The shapes cast shadows on the wall, which occupy the prisoners' attention. First of all, what do you think the fire represents? What does the fire represent in the story? Hope. Okay. Ignorance. All right. Power. Knowledge. All right. So they're inside this cave, and here's this enormous fire, and the shape, and there are people walking around, and they're casting shadows on the wall. What is a shadow? What is a shadow?
Figment of a person.
It's what?
Figment.
It's a figment of a person. Okay.
It's a distortion of what the real thing is.
It's a distortion of what the real thing is. Is the shadow the same as me?
No.
No. How is my shadow different than me? It's an outline of me, right? It can be taller, shorter. It can be, longer, taller, all that kind of stuff. It's just a distortion of the real thing. So when you see my shadow, do you see me?
No.
No. Right? You don't see me. So the cast shadows on the wall which occupy the prisoner's attention. What should prisoners be thinking about?
How to get out of there.
How to get out of there? Are they thinking about that?
No.
No. They should be, trying to get free, but they're not doing that because they're paying attention to these shadows. All right. Also, when one of the cave sharers speaks, an echo against the wall causes the prisoners to believe that the words are coming from the shadows. Oh my goodness, these people are messed up. They think that these shadows are what? Talking. Man, this is messed up. Now what's an echo? What is an echo?
Distortion of your voice.
It's what?
Distortion of
It's a distortion of your voice. Right? Because you go, hello, 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 hello. Or it can go the other way, right? Hello, 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 hello. Right? Is the echo the same as the original voice? No. It's being distorted. So not only are they seeing shapes of shadows, they're not even seeing the real thing, but they're not even hearing what? The true voice. Right? They're not hearing the true voice. The prisoners engage in what appears to us to be a game, naming the shapes as they go by. Wow. Not only are they not thinking about getting out, they're enjoying themselves. They're having a good time up in the cave. Watching shadows and listening to echoes. Isn't that crazy? But what's the next sentence say? This is all they know.
So they've been there since childhood.
They've been here since childhood.
They've been
They,
brainwashed.
right? It's what they know. I want to tell you that up until this point, you've been doing the best you could with what? What you know. There are all types of ways that we're all in caves. Can you give me some examples of things that keep us bound, that keep us blind, that keep us focusing on stuff that's not necessarily good for us? What are some of those things that distract us?
TV.
TV, material stuff, morals,
People who are above us.
people who are above us that are telling us how it's supposed to be, right? Yeah. We're all in that cave. So let's see what happens in this next paragraph. Suppose a prisoner is released and compelled to stand up and turn around. What's he going to see?
Fire and razor.
He'll see the fire. What else will he see?
The people. Well, actually, you're not going to see much of anything else.
He might not see much of anything at first, but then he'll get adjusted to seeing the fire and seeing people walk around. He'll see the other prisoners. And what's going to happen to how he sees the world, what he thinks?
When he gets scared.
It's going to shift. How's he going to feel, though? Is he happy and excited?
He's scared.
No, he might be shy, scared, shocked. He might even say, you know what? You guys lied to me. I see this how it really is. And it's not what, right? Yeah. His eyes will be so blinded by the firelight that the shapes passing will appear less real than their shadows. Why will these objects be less real than their shadows? Because he's never seen them before for himself. Right? He's never seen them for himself. And, you know, a little 6-inch horse looks a whole lot different than a 6-foot shadow of a horse. Right? Yeah. Similarly, if he's dragged up out of the cave and into the sunlight, his eyes will be so blinded that he will not be able to see anything. First of all, why do you think this person would need to be dragged up out of the cave?
He's been chained to the wall.
He's been chained to the wall. So physically, he might not be able to make the journey out of the cave. Right? Why else would he need to be dragged up?
He's scared.
Because he's scared of what's out this other place, because I've never seen that. I don't know what that is. This is a scary thing for me. Right? Yeah. And why would he not be able to see anything? Yeah, his eyes have been adjusted to the darkness for so long that once he gets out, he doesn't...
That is reality.
That is reality.
The sunlight is real.
Yeah. So at first, he'll be able to see darker shapes such as shadows. Only later, brighter and brighter objects. Why would he be able to see shadows? Because that's what he's used to. That's what he knows. Right? I have an uncle who goes to summer camp pretty often. And I don't know if you picked that up yet. My uncle's a little old to be going to summer camp. We also refer to it as the penitentiary. All right? I have an uncle, and you know, he's been in and out so much that when he gets out, guess what he's trying to do?
Get back in.
Get back in. So he does something to get back in, because he knows what? He knows shadows.
It's familiar to him.
It's familiar to him. I know that environment. That's what I like to do. But if we're going to start being changed and transformed by the renewing of our mind, we're going to have to start looking at our shadows differently. All right? Let's go on. It says he'll later be able to see brighter and brighter objects. The last object he would be able to see is the sun, which in time he would learn to see as that. What does that mean? He'll see it for what it is. The sun. When he first gets out of this cave, what do you think he calls that thing that he sees out there? Fire. Probably, right? He probably says it's fire in the sky. But what do I have to understand about our universe to understand what the sun is? What's that?
That you live on a planet.
that I live on a planet. And what planet in particular? The third one from the sun. And that there are two others on, in between us. And that there's some on the other side of us too. And that we all go around this thing. Now, is there something happening to this person as he's exploring it and learning and doing these new things? What's happened to him? He's changing. He's changing. He's not the same person that was trapped in this cave, bound, looking at shadows, because now he understands what a shadow is, right? He understands what the sun is. Now, this is something that I think is really interesting. When I think of the sun and I think of the fire, how are they different? We know how they're alike. They both provide heat, blah, blah, blah. But what's the purpose of the fire versus the purpose of the sun?
Fire destroys.
Fire destroys, okay?
Control fire.
You can control fire.
Fire can die out.
Fire can die out. How did the fire get in the cave? Somebody made it. Somebody built it. For what? For their purpose. Whatever their purpose was, whether it's to cast the shadows, for warmth, for whatever, they made the fire. What does the sun represent? How'd the sun get there? Did human beings have any impact on how that sun got up there? No. Right? For me, when I think about what the sun represents versus the fire, I think about truth. That the sun represents truth. That it's how we explore what's real for us. And sometimes it's too bright for us to look at the truth. I know y'all been in that relationship and people keep telling you to look at the truth and you're like, no, I don't want to see it. I love him. Right? The truth. Once thus enlightened, so to speak, the free prisoner would no doubt want to return to free his fellow bondsmen. Does that make sense? He's been out here by himself for a long time and he wants to go back and do what?
Get his friends.
Get his friends, get his mama and his cousins and all those folks, get those folks and tell them about what he has seen. The problem, however, is that they would not want to be freed. Wait a minute. I got good news for you. I'm trying to help you out. Why would these people not want to be free?
Scared.
Because they're afraid. Because they're scared.
They're not brave enough to take that step.
They're not brave enough to take that step.
Because the other guy.
They don't believe him.
Yeah.
Right? Because he's come back talking all kind of crazy language. What do you mean a sun? What is that? You mean trees don't talk? What's going on? Because he's got a whole different kind of vocabulary now, right?
He's got a different point of view.
And he has a different point of view. And he's just a different kind of cat now, right? I mean, it just takes a little bit for him to go back to his old ways. The problem, however, is that they would not want to be free. If I'm a chain polisher, and that's how I get paid, do I want people free? No. If I'm walking around casting shadows, and that's what my purpose is in life, do I want people free? No. Because I'll be out of a job. So we got people who are still looking for finding their meaning by help keeping other people down. And we've got people who are down, keeping each other down because they don't know how they'll relate outside of this other world. Descending back into the cave would require the free prisoner's eyes to adjust again. And for a time, he would be inferior at the ludicrous process of identifying shapes on the wall. What does ludicrous mean?
Insane.
Ridiculous.
Insane, ridiculous, laughable. Stand up! Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. And for a time, he'd be inferior to the ludicrous process of Dave's finding shapes on the wall. This would make his fellow prisoners murderous towards anyone who would attempt to free him. These people so much don't want to change, they would rather do what to this man?
Kill him.
Kill him. Than have him loose them and let them go. Have you seen this story played out in history at all? You give me some examples.
Holocaust.
The Holocaust. Example.
People didn't want to, like, in the U.S., they watched it go on for years, and didn't want to believe it.
It can't
Happen.
Yep. Yep. What else? Other examples.
Slaves, freedom of slaves.
Freedom for slaves. All right. Yeah. Another example that pops up in my mind when I think about this story is the story of Gandhi. And I don't know if you've heard the story of Gandhi, but I'll give it to you in a short 30-second version. Gandhi told the British Empire, at one point it was said the sun never sets on the British Empire, which meant that it was so vast that in the known world the sun never set on the British Empire. And Gandhi met with these folks and he said, you guys got to go. And not only do you have to go, but when you go, we will still be friends. And guess what happened? They left. And guess what happened to their friendship? They maintained it. But Gandhi paid with what? His life. Martin Luther King was another example that said, you know what, folks? We can live differently. We don't have to do what we've always done. There's a new way that we can interact with each other. And he paid with what? His life. And I'm going to ask you a question. First, before I ask you this question, I'm going to give you some more information so you can make an intelligent decision about the question I'm going to ask you. All right? Now, when you decide to step out of this cave, there will be people whose primary objective is to become a sniper for you. That's going to be their job. And I'm not talking about them, trying to take your life. So, you don't have to worry about that. But they will do what we call character assassination. And it kind of goes like this. Oh, since you've been going to that school now, you don't have time to come hang out with us. Oh, honey, you can't come over today because you got to do what? Study? Well, you didn't used to be like that. Oh, so now that, you get that job, at that highfalutin place making all that money, now you can't break me off none? Because I sleep all day and, and my video game time gets interrupted by jobs. You know anybody like that? I got some people like that in my family. Video games be interrupting their job. That don't make sense to me. Right? Their job will be to go out and get you. Now, it's really funny because, and I'm going to ask that question. So, hold on to that question I'm going to ask you. But I remember when I was, and I may have shared pieces of this story with you last week, but I used to live in Mounds View, and there's a lake, Silver Lake, that's not too far, and it was my private pool. Because, Minnesota's a land of 10,000 lakes. So I just claimed that one as my private pool because I couldn't afford one in my apartment. And actually, the one that was there, you don't want to be in. So I decided, and this is when I had long hair, right? So I decided I'm going to go to the lake. And so I had a little method to my madness. For those of us, who have long hair, sometimes you don't want to get it wet because it's just a bothersome kind of thing. So, so I had in a high ponytail and all that kind of stuff, and I'm easing into the water, right? So I get to about my knees, and I'm just kind of, getting used and adjusted to the water. And then it gets to about my waist and, getting used to the water. And I get to about my ribs, and I'm getting used to the water. And all of a sudden, the swarm of teenagers descends on the lake. And so they run in and they're laughing and all sorts of stuff and splashing and having a good time. And all of a sudden, I start getting what? Mad, upset, angry. And I feel and I know I'm getting upset when my ears get hot. And I'm standing there and I'm like, ooh, my ears are hot, right? And then I thought about it and I just started laughing to myself. And why did I start laughing?
It's not your private pool.
Yeah. Where was I? I was in the lake. And what was happening to me? I was getting wet. And I was getting upset because I was getting wet and I was in the lake. And it occurred to me one of two things. I need to get in there and have fun, or do what?
Get out.
Get out. By coming to school, by taking these steps to improve yourself, guess what? You're disturbing the water for somebody else. So here's my question. Is it better to be the free person or the prisoner? And I'm not talking about esoterically, I'm talking about for you. Is it better for you to be the prisoner or to be the free person? Knowing that you're going to be disturbing other people's water. Knowing that there will be people who are out to pull you down like crabs in a bucket. Is it worth it for you to be the free person? I see a couple of nodding heads.
Oh, yeah.
For those of you who say no or are unsure, guess what? It's already too late. You are already marching out of the cave. And there's nothing you can do about it because you've already started the journey. But one of the things I think is really interesting in the story, because they said that the man was dragged up out of the cave. You can't drag yourself. Which meant what?
There are people.
There was somebody already outside the cave helping him make it through. Somebody that he probably trusted. It may not even been somebody he knew. But guess what? Each one of you are going to help pull each other out of the cave. So that's what we're talking about tonight in motivation. All right? So let's get to it. This is one of my favorite stories. And I don't know if you've seen the movies like The Matrix, or there's some other, Terminator 2 or whatever. There's some other movies that deal with this kind of stuff. What's the movie with Robin Williams and he dies? What Dreams May Come. Same story. Same story. All right? Matrix, all that stuff. It's the same story. Love this story. All right. So what is motivation? What is motivation? What's that? Courage. All right.
Drive.
What's that?
Drive.
What else? What was that? Affirmations. Okay. It is all of those things, but more importantly, it's the reason why. Motivation is the reason why we do things. There's a story of the car that just went over in St. Croix. It drove off the thing and into the water. And the police officer went in, broke out the window, and got the people out. What was his motivation? Saving lives. What else? It was his job, right? It was his job to help save lives. That was his motivation. Why do you go to work?
Pay bills.
pay bills. Some people don't go to work. Right? Why did your parents raise you? What was their motivation? Or your caretakers? Why did they invest time, energy,
To
and
make a
stuff in-
difference, to be a stepping stone in your growth.
to be a stepping stone in you? That was their motivation. All right? So it's the reason why we do things. That is our motivation. So we're going to talk about a couple of forms. We'll talk about a couple of forms of motivation in just a bit. But I also want to talk about, well, we'll just go there. Can you get those cards out from last week? And you would have grabbed the card that, the black card. And if you could share with Ben, I'd appreciate it until I can get the card. All right. So first of all, in number 2, what does that say in number 2?
Either or.
Free water, food sold,
Free food,
or free food, water sold. What makes the difference between seeing those two things?
They're totally different.
They have totally different meanings.
Either one or the other is free. They both can't be.
Either one or the other is free. And it's impacted by your paradigm. What's a paradigm again? Talked about this last week. The way you see the world. The way you see the world is your paradigm. So both of those are correct depending on your paradigm, how you see the world. All right. So let's first talk about this concept of attitude. Now, what is an attitude? Young people always have them. I've been told to fix mine or that I have a bad one. Right? So what is an attitude?
How you project yourself?
How you project yourself? Okay. What else? I know you guys have been teenagers and somebody told you you had a bad attitude at some point, right?
How you react to stimulus?
How you react to stimulus. All right. Now I want to say that when I got hip to this concept, it really changed my life because it made me think of the world in a different way. It was one of those aha moments for me because I was always confused about what people were talking about when they said attitude. You know, they say you have a bad attitude or fix your attitude. My parents would tell me, and I may have told this story as well, but I love telling it. You know, I remember my parents would say, go to your room so you learn how to act. And I'd be in my room for a while, and then I'd come out to the hall and I'd say, to be or not to be? And then they tell me to go back in my room. But I'm mad because they're not Siskel and Ebert or Roger and Robert or, you know, some film critics, right? But that's not what they meant, right? They didn't mean that. So let me tell you a couple of stories, and hopefully this will get to a new definition of attitude. All right? So, as I've told you before, my father was my pastor. He was the minister of my church. And in our church, on Sunday, we have church all day. Relentless, all day, till 11 o'clock at night, 7:50 in the morning, all day. And you have a Kentucky Fried Chicken break somewhere during that day, but it was all day. And so Friday night, I asked my dad, I said, Dad, can I borrow the car to go to the movies with my friends? My dad says what? Yes. He says yes, because he loves me. All right? He says yes. And so my dad says, I have what kind of an attitude?
Good.
A good attitude. And I say, my dad has what kind of an attitude?
Great.
A good attitude, or even great attitude. Right? Then Sunday afternoon, my friends are going to the movie, and I say, Dad, can I borrow the car to go to the movies? My dad says what?
Nope.
No. And I say, my dad has what kind of an attitude? A bad attitude. And my father says, I have what kind of an attitude? A bad attitude. What determines an attitude? What's that?
Tradition.
Tradition,
Appropriate time.
appropriate time, someone else's perception. Okay. When I was 13, I took my first plane ride to New York City. Right. So I'm 13. I'm flying with a bunch of people to New York City, and my family was at home. I'm out here with friends and this organization. It was just really super. And so one of the things that's happening is as we're flying into to New York City, the captain gets on the loudspeaker and he says, we're at $17,000 feet. If you look out your left side window, you should see the Statue of Liberty. So I go to look out my window. Guess what? Can't see the Statue of Liberty. So I'm like, no problem, because guess what? I'll see it on the way back. So on the way back, I switch my seats and all that kind of stuff, and the pilot comes on, and just about at the same spot, he says, we're at 17,000 feet, there's sugar. If you look out your right side window, you'll see the Statue of Liberty. I look outside, and I didn't see the Statue of Liberty. Why?
Did you were on the right side of the plane, then on the left?
Uh-huh. I had a bad attitude. All right. So I want you to write this down. An attitude is the direction you lean according to your goal. In aeronautics, attitude is the pitch at what a plane leans. That's the attitude. We all know what the altitude is, right? Altitude is what?
How high you are.
How high from where?
The ground.
The ground. Right? So an attitude is the direction you lean according to your goal. So what determines an attitude?
We just to view things.
What's that?
How you view things.
How you view things? It's in the definition.
What your goal is.
What your goal is. When I had a good attitude, when I said my father had a good attitude, and he said I had a good attitude, we had the what?
Same goal.
The same goal. We were leaning in the same what? Direction. When we were leaning in opposite directions, I said he had what kind of an attitude? A bad attitude. Have you ever known somebody at work who had a bad attitude? Yeah. Were they getting what their goal was? No. Because usually they're talking about being someplace else, doing something else. And it's so funny, when I encounter those folks, guess what I tell them? Go do it. Because otherwise, they're going to have a bad what? Attitude. So when people were telling me as a teenager that I needed to adjust or change my attitude, what were they really telling me?
Reassess your goal.
I need to change my goal. Right? I don't know about you, but I've had jobs that I couldn't quit. I mean, I could quit, but I'd be destitute. Right? But I didn't want to quit, so I had to change my attitude because my attitude was affecting what I'm doing at work. And so I had to change what? My goal. Instead of going to work because it was something I loved and enjoyed, I started going to work because I was getting a paycheck. And I had to remember, if I want to keep my paycheck, I got to have a good what? Attitude. All right? Attitude. So that's the first concept. So we'll check that off. If you look at picture 3, which of those mules has a good attitude?
They both.
They both do.
They work together. Set and decision.
The first picture, second picture, third picture, fourth picture, fifth picture,
Fifth
sixth.
and sixth.
Yeah, the fifth and sixth have a good attitude. And why? Because they're getting what they want. Teenagers have good attitudes when they're getting what they want. When they're not getting what they want, it's like having Pepe Le Pew in your house. Pepe Le Pew is that little skunk, you know. All right. Let's talk about habits. What is a habit? Something that you always do. What purpose does a habit serve?
You have to think about it.
You don't have to think about it. You don't have to think about it. So let's look at letter A. And can someone read those words for me?
Yellow, black, blue, orange, red, green, purple, yellow, black, blue, orange, red, green, purple, yellow, black.
Mm. Would you say that was pretty easy? No? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I personally would say it was relatively easy. I would say it was relatively Habits are designed to make your life easy. They really are. They're designed to make your life easy. It's called, there are basically kind of two properties of your brain. There's the cognitive property and the associative property. All right? The associative property are all those properties associated with habits. For example, I don't know if this has happened to you, but it always happens to me. That there's, I'm driving and a big storm comes in, right? And I'm jamming too. I'm like, I'm jamming. I got people in the car. People are talking and being loud and all that kind of stuff. The storm rolls in. What's the first thing I do?
Turn the radio down.
I tell people to be quiet, right? I'm like, be quiet. And then what do?
Slow down.
I turn the music down. Now, I can drive, but why did I have to turn down my radio, tell people to be quiet? Why am I doing all that? So I can concentrate. And then the storm rolls out, and what do?
Turn the music
I
up.
turn the music back up, and I still tell people to be quiet. So the cognitive property says, I have to think about this. My associative property says, this is regular, normal for me. I don't have to do this. Right? So a habit is a pattern of learned behavior that has become automatic. A pattern of learned behavior that becomes automatic. Does anybody know a smoker? Were smokers born with cigarettes hanging out of their mouths? No. How do smokers become smokers? They started smoking. They learned it. Now, what's the exciting thing about this definition of a habit?
Break it.
You can break them.
You can break them by what? Unlearning or relearning. Now, it's really funny because my Uncle Rick was a smoker. Uncle Rick doesn't smoke anymore. But you will never find Uncle Rick without a toothpick in his mouth. Why is that? Why is it the same with your Uncle Rick?
Habit of having something in your mouth.
Uh-huh. To replace what? The cigarette habit. Part of what, people do these diets, they do these, I'm going to do these behavior changes and all this kind of stuff. How many people have ever made a New Year's resolution? How long did that New Year's resolution last? 9 months for you? All right, good. All right? But for most of us, 60 days is probably the max. At least I'll talk for me, okay? Because about 21 and I'm done. Right? Why is that?
We're creatures of habit.
We're creatures of habit. What else?
Get lazy.
We get lazy. One of the things that's extremely important to realize, and this is funny, what's in a hole that's 3 feet deep?
Space.
Nothing, or it wouldn't be a hole. All right? Now the funny thing is, this is pothole season now. What do you find in a pothole? You find what? Water, rocks, what else? Damage, what else? Garbage. I mean, you find all sorts of crazy stuff in a pothole. Now, what is supposed to be in a pothole? Asphalt, tar, concrete, but it's not there. And why is it not there?
Deteriorated away.
Because there's a hole. Now, this is something in terms of thinking about habits that we have to start thinking differently about ourselves, because these are learned things. If there is a hole, guess what? The universe will fill it with something. If you don't. The potholes are full of all those other things because what? People haven't filled them with what they're supposed to be filled with. Those New Year's resolutions typically don't last because we take away a behavior, but we don't replace it with something else. Your Uncle Rick and my Uncle Rick understand that. So when he quit smoking, he picked up toothpicks. When we quit doing this bad thing, we typically don't pick up a good thing to balance it out. So then we have this empty hole, and what happens? We fall back into our habits. Has anyone ever heard somebody say that? I fell back into my habits. Why? Because you left it open. But we have to start sealing those things. Habits. So, when I was 7 years old, we had this thing called 7 at 7. And 7 at 7 meant that me and my brothers and sisters, I'm the oldest, would line up. All right? We'd line up for bed. And my mother would check for 3 things. She checked to see if we had washed behind our ears, brushed our teeth, and we had a big spoon of cod liver oil.
Yes.
7 at 7, every night. Cod liver oil, because it's important for 7-year-olds to be regular. Who knew? So 7 at 7. So every night, boom, 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 boom. Fast forward 30 years. I'm 37 years old. I'm getting ready for bed. What do? I brush my teeth. I wash behind my ears. And I do not drink cod liver oil. But why do I do that now?
She grew up with it.
Because it was a habit. I grew up with it. It's a learned behavior that has become automatic. Before it was a habit, what was it?
Routine.
It was a routine.
Punishment.
It was a routine. So if you want to change your habits, then you must start with your routines. So a routine is a cognitive set of behaviors that are scheduled. And cognitive means to think about. Now, there was this new place in town when I was a teenager. No, actually, I think I was 18, 19. And this new place opened up in town. It was the hottest spot. And it was called Applebee's. And me and my friend, my friend Dexter, we would go to Applebee's on every Thursday. That was our meeting. It didn't matter what was going on in our life. We were meeting at Applebee's on Thursday. And, at that time, I was a young man. And so I did what young men did. I had the latest fashions at the time. I had the high top fade that went up like this, looked like a big eraser head. And I had the I don't know if you know, Dwayne Wayne glasses. So they were sunglasses, but they flipped up like this. So, I had all of that. And I had a sweater vest, and I smoked a tobacco pipe. Now, this was back when you could smoke inside, right? So, I had my tobacco pipe, and my buddy and we had his cousin was older than us. His cousin was a freshman in college, and we were, he was a sophomore in college. He was 2 years older than us. And we just graduated, so we would hang out with him because he was a frat guy, he was cool, all this kind of stuff, and he smoked a pipe. So we started smoking our pipes. And, the problem for me was I could never remember my pipe. So we get there on, Applebee Thursday, and we have our, our root beer and our, mozzarella sticks, and Dexter would be like, Andre, where's your pipe? And I'd be like, Dexter, I forgot. Now, it was really funny because Caesar, our friend from college, my best friend's and older cousin, never forgot his pipe. So, we do this, time and time again, and then we meet for holidays. Years would pass and that kind of stuff. And I always forgot my pipe. So it never became a what? Habit. But for Caesar, it became a what? Habit, because it was his routine. So if you want to change a habit, what do you start with? A routine. Studying can be a habit only if it's part of your routine. Changing how you think about yourself can only become a habit once it's a part of your routine. Now, and it's really funny because I used to hear people talk about, we're going to say affirmations about ourselves, and that's going to make us feel better, and blah, blah, blah. What they didn't tell me was that if I make that a part of my routine, it will then become a habit, and then it will work. But if I'm just saying these things, and it's not a part of a routine, it's not something that I'm thinking about, and it's not something that I schedule, it'll never be a habit. All right? So habits, all right. So belief. If I walked up to Miss America, no, Tyra Banks. Let's use Tyra Banks. All right. Everybody know who Tyra Banks is? Okay. If I walked up to Tyra Banks and I said, Tyra, you are not attractive.
Who is she?
She's one of the supermodels on one of those. She's like the new Oprah kind of thing. Supermodel, America's most dramatic, whatever. What's her show? Tyra Banks show. No, she's got the other one too.
Oh,
America's Next Top Model. So she's one of those type people. If I told her that she was not attractive, what would she tell me?
She'd laugh in your face.
She'd laugh in my face. She'd call me crazy. Right? She probably had me on her talk show. Let's talk about this. Right? Why is that? Why was she?
Everybody's telling her
Yeah,
her whole
everyone
life.
thinks
Everybody's always told her she's pretty. But she believed all of it.
This is, this is funny. My grandmother is, well, both my grandmothers are from the South, but one of my grandmothers is from the Deep South. And she makes this stuff called hot water cornbread. And I don't know if you know about hot water cornbread, but you need a cast iron skillet. Does anybody's grandma have a cast iron skillet? Okay, all right. What's unique and special about a cast iron skillet? For those who have one near them.
The way they cook.
The way they cook, what else? It's hard, it's heavy, what else? Yeah, what about the flavor?
The taste, the flavoring, the seasoning.
Yeah, anything that you cook in that will taste like the flavoring, right? Now, the thing about it is, it's much like a wok, because I messed up a wok once, because I don't know if you know, but you're not supposed to wash a wok. Like I was in there with, with soap and scrubbing all up in the wok, right? And then 2 days later, the wok what?
Rusted.
It rusted out. I'm like, what's wrong with this? Right? You're not supposed to wash a wok, so that's a warning. All right. The other thing you're not supposed to do is you're not supposed to wash a cast iron skillet. My grandmother about broke my neck because you rub off all the flavoring. That's what she used to call it. I used to call it other stuff, but she'd be like, that's flavoring, baby. Flavoring. Right? So, so you can cook this hot water cornbread in this cast iron skillet. But you know what? One time I tried to scramble some eggs in the cast iron skillet. It didn't go so well. I think I burnt more egg than I cooked, right? Because it got all stuck in the crevices and all that kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. Now, I invited my grandma over to my house for breakfast, and I have, I got those little saucepans with the Teflon, so I'm like doing this pancakes, and woo, all sorts of stuff, right? And so, I'm cooking the eggs, and I'm like, phew. Now what's the great thing about Teflon?
No stick.
No stick, so I'm just like saucing stuff. I look magical, right? My grandma asked me to cook some hot water cornbread. And I said, what? I can't, Grandma, because I don't have a cast iron skillet. Now, the interesting thing about the cast iron skillet versus the Teflon is that they're both good for what they're good for, right? If you want stuff to stick, you want the flavor to stick, you use your cast iron skillet. If you don't want anything, you do the Teflon, right? A belief is very much the same way. A belief is what you agree to. That is a belief. If I told Tyra Banks that she wasn't attractive and she held on to that, that would become her truth, and then she would what? Believe it. There are things that you've held on to that somebody else gave you, and you what? Believe it. And it becomes true for you. The flip side can also happen, that what? If you stop believing some of that stuff, then you can have some other truths. All right? So belief is something that you agree to. What are expectations? Expectations. Results.
Things that are expected of you.
Things that are
Yeah.
expected of you. All right. What else? Standards. All right. Expectations are the standards and level of thought that you have. Now, I don't know about you, but I've had, I don't know why I keep talking about relationship stuff like this, but I've had female friends that no matter what the guy's name is, it's the same guy. Do you get what I'm saying? The guy will have a different name, but he act like the guy before him. He's got the same bad habits as the guy before him. He don't treat her like he's supposed to, just like the guy before him, right? And part of it is that we collect what we expect. If I think I'm no good, what am I going to collect? No good. Right? And it's really funny because it sneaks up on us. It's not like it just happens overnight, but it sneaks up on us. I don't know. Have you ever rented an apartment and there was something wrong in the apartment, and you say, you know what, I'm going to get that fixed. And then a month goes by, you go, you know what, I'm going to get that fixed. And then, you're at the end of the lease and you're signing out, and you're like, oh yeah, I was supposed to get that fixed. Anybody experience something like that? Yeah. What happened? What happened?
I was going to say procrastinate when you said that.
Well, we're going to get to procrastination in just a second. You forgot?
You lost your train of thought.
You expected it not to work.
Yeah. It became a part of your everyday life. It wasn't something you didn't have an expectation for. It just became regular. My grandmother used to say this all the time. You can marry a poor man as much as you can a rich man. I mean, she wasn't talking to me particularly. She wasn't that liberal. But you rise and fall to your expectations. All right? So one of the lies that often gets told to us is that, and people say this a lot, they will say, I procrastinated. You ever heard somebody say that? I'm sorry, I didn't get that done because I procrastinated. Anybody ever heard somebody say that? You never heard it? Okay. Yeah. That is a lie. There is no such thing as procrastination. There are only choices. When people procrastinate, what have they really done? They made a choice to do something else. And then they blame it on what? Procrastination. One of the things I'm going to get you to start doing is to tell the truth on yourself. People say, well, I tried. No, you didn't try. Trying is for losers. It's either do or do not. That's what Yoda said. And I'm going to believe the little green man, because in that last movie, that dude was bad. I didn't know that little dude could move like that. Did you know? Because in the first Star Wars, he's like, crying, Luke. Now, why are all the Skywalkers crybabies? Have you ever noticed that? Darth Vader was a crybaby. Luke Skywalker was a crybaby. Princess Leia was a crybaby.
Not really crybabies, more like whiny babies.
Yeah, whiny babies. Obi-Wan won't let me use my superhuman powers. I love the Star Wars, the first ones. Those last ones, I could have just yanked, Skywalker kid. Anyway, all right. So there is no such thing as procrastination. And why do you think I'm sharing that with you? Why am I so adamant about not talking about procrastination? It makes you realize you're making a choice. It starts to help you get into your cognitive thinking. Because when you just say, well, I just procrastinated, that takes away the responsibility of the choices that you made. We constantly make choices. We have tons of choices. All the time, they're bombarding us. Some of them are conscious choices, and some of them are unconscious choices. If you want to be successful, you have to start making more cognitive, conscious choices that lead you in the direction of your vision and goals. All right? So your paper is going to be designed to do that, to lead you in the direction of your visions and goals. And no more procrastination. It's about choices. You make choices. All right? So there was one more thing I wanted to do. Oh. So on your card, there's a picture of a spaceship, and there are 2 planets. All right, a spaceship and 2 planets. And let's, first of all, which of these 2 planets would the spaceship be drawn to? The bigger one. And why is that?
Gravitational field.
Gravitational pull. What is gravity?
Something that holds us down.
It's the thing that pulls, right? And the basic way to sum that up is that the bigger the mass, what?
The greater the pull.
The greater the pull. And the lesser the mass, what? The lesser the pull. All right? So let's say that this is the big planet. Let's write in there old behavior. And let's write in this little planet, new behavior. Now, I want you to think about your New Year's resolution. Why is it difficult to make that change?
Drawn to your old behavior.
Why are you drawn to your old behavior? Yes, correct. Why are you drawn to your old behavior? Because it's what you're used to. It's that cave, it's the shadow, it's what you know.
It's the habit.
It's the habit. And what? Talk to me. It's easier, you're used to it, but why is it easier? We just talked about the gravitational what?
It's a bigger part of your life.
It's a bigger part of your life. It has a stronger pull. Now, if you are the master of your own fate, the creator of your destiny, can you change the direction of this ship without touching the ship? Tell me how.
Make the lift in the bigger part of your life.
You got to make this bigger,
Sling the shot around it.
right? You got to make this bigger. And how do you make this bigger? You change your attitudes, you change your habits, you change your expectations, you change your routines, and guess what? You don't have to start trying to be different. Guess what's going to happen?
You will be different.
You will be different. You don't have to try to walk out the cave. Guess what? You're going to be out the cave. You're going to see things differently. You're going to see the sun for the sun. Right? That stuff is going to be crystal clear for you. Now, the last point. There's an airplane on your card. And let's say this is north. And this would be east. And then this would be west. So this is north. So I have my plane on automatic pilot. And it's set north. And I get a call. And, the tower says, well, there's a storm in the north. You need to go east. So I grab a hold of the steering wheel. And I start going east. And then I notice that, the tower says, well, you're clear from, the storm or whatever. So I let go of the steering wheel. What happens to the plane? When I started out, I had it on automatic pilot. I'm going north on automatic pilot. I grab the steering wheel and I start going east. The tower tells me, you're fine. I let go of the steering wheel. What happens to the plane?
It continues going
It
straight
starts
east.
going north again. Now the interesting thing is, people say, I can act differently. I remember I had my friend Dexter and I got into a lot of trouble, right? So it's our freshman year in college. I'm doing this tour with our college choir, and we start this tour in Cincinnati. Now, I lived in Dayton, which is about 45 minutes away from Cincinnati. And we met these girls in Cincinnati. Again, I'm from Dayton, so I'm on this college tour. But for some reason, and I don't know what possessed me, I had a New York accent when I was a freshman in college. I'm from Dayton, Ohio, with a New York accent. I don't really know what a New York accent sounds like, right? But I meet these girls and I'm like, yo, girl, what's up? You know, how you doing and everything, you know? She loved it. Loved the accent. And, you know, and she couldn't help it because of the hair and the glasses. But she loved it. I was like, well, what's the problem with that?
It's not you.
It wasn't you.
It wasn't me, right? Every time we got together, my accent got worse. And not only was my accent bad, I had to pull my buddy in to back up. So he had a bad New York accent too. So you got these two brothers from Dayton, Ohio, talking to these two girls from Cincinnati, Ohio, and these girls think that we're half Haitian. How long do you think that relationship's gonna last?
For the third date.
Not very long, probably the third date. I don't even remember if we made it that far, right? Because I can act differently, but ultimately what's going to happen when I stop acting?
You're gonna go back to
I'm going to go back to my regular self. Can I change the direction of my life without touching my steering wheel? Adjust my autopilot. How do I adjust my autopilot?
Take control, turn it
Which
on.
little knob?
By rehab.
I have to rehab my behaviors. And once I do that, again, I don't have to start acting different. And the funny thing is, people keep saying, Andre, well, I live in a situation where the people around me are not helping me out. They're not benefiting me. They're doing their own thing. Guess what? You don't have to say anything to those people. You don't have to do anything to those people. You just keep being you and changing who you are, because then they have decisions to make. That they will either get in the water or they will what? Get out. And you don't have to make any kind of decision, but to keep doing and living the life that you want to live. Rehab your own behaviors. My grandmother used to say it, and I'm mad that this other man said it and got tons of money, and my grandma didn't get nothing. My grandmother used to say, Andre, the only thing you run are your shoes. What was she saying when she said that?
The only decisions you can make are your own, not other people's.
Who am I responsible for?
You.
Me. Because I was a bossy little kid. Let's do this. We're going to play this, and we're going to go over here, right? But the only person I could run is me. The only person I had control over is me. And Dr. William Glasser said the only thing, he has this thing called the choice theory. We'll talk about this later. But the choice theory says that people do what they want when they want. And you get paid millions for that. I'm like, that's a crime. That's cheap. Everybody knows that, right? All right. So, I thank you for hanging out with me in lieu of another break. And so, as a reward, I think that we should depart just a little bit early. Does anyone else feel that way?
Yeah, the well game starts in 10 minutes.
Okay. I didn't have any impact on that, but so there are a couple of things I want you to take home for homework, and bring them in, and I will pass those things out tonight. One is in relationship to your visions and goals paper. The other is dealing with the motivation, more of this motivation stuff, but we'll talk about the academic pieces. Tomorrow. Next week in class. All right. And do not go online, but don't worry about online. All right? Because I have to get caught up and make sure that all that stuff is ready for you. And I will collect all of the orange crossword puzzle pieces. And I will make sure that the contract is copied for you next week. All right? So let me pass those things out.
Oh, yeah.
I thought we didn't have homework.
Good point, I am too.
Andre? So the online things are not relevant. Is it like our
Not
choice?
yet. Not yet. Because I have to get caught up on them.
Didn't you want those?
Yeah, yep, I'll take those.
Oh.
If folks have them, I'll take them. This is how I'll measure class participation.
And what are we doing?